Alrighty, so we have a new kind of event that has come out, as well as some new spawns. So I figured I'd go over them. The Fate Woven spawn, in my opinion, is not really worth it. There are some good monsters in this spawn, but there's nothing guaranteed. And because there's no guarantees, I don't recommend it for free to play players. And I definitely don't recommend it for new players unless you're going to be re-rolling lots of accounts, and then maybe, okay, I could see that. But yeah, I don't think that this is a great spawn just in general. So let's check out the other new spawn that's out. Peony. She costs about 800 gems. I did the math there. There, you need 13k for the summoning scroll. She gives 600 to 1,000, 200, 300, 400, 500, and there's only 5 boxes total. So that's kind of nice. And again, 50 to 200 in medals just for the daily, for the every time you spend 15 or 30 gems. Now, the animation for Peony is beautiful. I mean, I think she's a fantastic monster as far as like looks wise. Let's actually read what she does, though. She hits 5 times and penetrates damage reduction and damage reflection as a star monster. And she does 1,000 ability power to all enemies. That is pretty powerful. She'll probably be one-shotting most teams, I think, with this type of damage amount. Applies obstacle to the enemy field. That's actually really interesting. I don't think that'll be a big deal on this monster, but it's kind of interesting. All allies or all enemies amplifies Unison gauge reduction effects by 50% for 40 seconds. And all enemies reduces Unison gauge by 50. So she increases the amount of gauge reduction that they experience. Then she immediately reduces Unison gauge, and she potentially reduces the enemy's cost. This is a demerit, so there's no way to avoid it on the enemies, but she just changes the enemy's cost to 30. So if it was 0, now it's 30. If it was 150 or 200, now it's 30. So that's kind of interesting for things like guild battles. It's the first part's really interesting. She's not a negative priority monster like Azure is, which is why I think that this is much better of a monster. But it is kind of interesting too. If you have 100% unison gauge reduction, you can obviously still get uni reduced with this, but you'll only be getting uni reduced by 25. I mean, 25 is a lot of uni. And if you have 0 unison reduction, you'll be getting uni down to 75, which is insane. So that's really, really fascinating. Applies a field protect to the allied field. Applies absolute, dawn, ambush, which is, in my opinion, the second best bubble, but could argue that it could be the best bubble. It kind of depends on the class. And she applies resolute element, which increases stats by 120, increases max HP by 120, and increases status ailment resistance by 30 for 120 seconds. This is all really, really good. Let's see what else she does. 40k in total stats. That is pretty garbage. All allies applies Keijin. Ugh, I don't like Keijin here, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. Excuse me. Insanity resistance is great. Time and star defense, uni defense, is super, super rare. Remember, star beats light and dark, so you're getting a total of 2,100 unison defense with this, and that's really, really nice. Now, she also applies, I believe, a new type of main slot monster, which increases the maximum unison gauge capacity by 30. So that's also really, really fascinating. So let's talk about the whole monster as a package. In something like PvE, this is not that great of a monster because you're missing out on a lot of these things. You're basically getting absolute, dawn, a pretty good bubble, and a good field, which is not bad. I mean, it's not a bad set, but it's not like amazing. You're also getting Kijin potentially, but we'll talk about that. Overall, though, I do like this for PvE. I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's amazing. It's just kind of in the middle. And Dawn is excellent for PvE. Ambush is also really excellent for PvE. The Resolute element, you're missing out on the elemental advantage. So that's kind of unfortunate. But 120k is the highest that we currently have. So that's good. Overall, I think for PvE specifically, this monster's not bad. I would probably put her in the 5 out of 10 range for a PvE monster. She doesn't do everything that you would want. There's lots of monsters that apply Absolute. There are lots of monsters that do Dawn. The ambush is a big factor, and just the fact that she gives a field, I guess, is kind of nice. Also, Kijin with Dawn is rare, but we're going to talk about that in just a second. Now, when it comes to PvP, that's a completely different story. PvP specifically, I don't think she's amazing, but I don't think she's bad either. In something like PvP, Uni is king, so preventing the enemies from uniing is good, and preventing them from gaining a field and protecting your field, all good things. Plus, Kijin gives penetration, which is a double-edged sword, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But everything else looks pretty good. I mean, you're getting a field. Yes, you're not getting things like diffusion. Yes, you're not uni boosting your team, and you're not uni prohibiting the enemy team. So there are some things that you're missing out on. The damage, though, is good. It is really good. So I think that most of the time, the enemies won't even survive to be able to see the next, to see the attacks coming after the uni. Now, of course, we'll have to see if that's the case or not, but that's just my prediction. With this amount of ability power and that many hits, that's pretty good. So overall, I think for PvP, this is a pretty solid monster. You are missing out on some things, specifically diffusion, but it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. It's definitely doable. So I'm going to put this at a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. It kind of depends where her damage falls. If the enemies can't survive, if you just straight up kill them, then you've basically won PvP. The biggest thing, though, is that you're not getting diffusion after the PvP, which is quite unfortunate. But you are getting some really good bubbles, on a potentially on something like a ninja, you could win sheer twice before most players will be able to even move. So there's a lot of potential here, and I don't think that it's bad. I definitely think that this is good. I'm putting it as an 8 out of 10 just because the damage could be a little bit higher. You're not uni downing, and again, no diffusion. But everything else, I think she's really, really good at. Now, when it comes to guild battles, this is, I think, where she shines. I think that she would be an amazing first round throw. She does basically everything that you would want in a first round throw, right? The damage, you're going to be putting this on something like a treasure hunter, most likely. So the damage coming out from the monster, Peony, doesn't really matter. The field obstacle is massive. Preventing the enemies from being able to gain a field slows them down and hopefully prevents them from being able to one-shot. The Unison gauge, followed up by uni downing the enemies, is incredibly massive. This essentially guarantees that not only are you able to uni down the enemies, but coming out of the uni, they will still have this Unison gauge reduction effect. Now, your Lancers on your team, most teams are going to run Lancers and some form of Lancers too, because Lancers right now are one of the most powerful classes in the entire game, and Lancers have lots of uni downs. One of the things that's been really annoying recently with Lancers is the fact that their uni downs don't always land because you can get 100% Unison reduction. This kind of negates that. Now, I'm not sure if this is my guess is that it's a special debuff. And if that's the case, then it can be removed easily. However, that can take some time. Depends on which abilities the enemies use, but potentially you could uni down them even more before they get back to it. Now, the cost is unfortunate. However, there's not really much that you can do in this day and age to prevent the enemies from keeping their cost. There are so many really powerful cost procs, so many things that they can do to gain uni. A lot of guilds will have more than enough cost. So setting the enemy's cost to 30 may have been a huge demerit, say 5 years ago, but nowadays it doesn't really matter. And of course, it could change the way that a match is fought. However, if the enemies are about to go into Crystal, setting their cost to 30 is actually a massive, massive debuff. Because a lot of classes can easily sit around 100 after a uni or two unis to boost up to go to Crystal. And with abilities costing so much, it only takes one bad proc to be able to shut down. If your ability costs 25 cost just to use once, if you don't double or triple proc and gain that cost back, you're going to be dead in the water really fast. So this monster is actually really, really good in the first round throw already. Now, protecting your field, it may not seem super important, but for a lot of early guilds, this is actually pretty powerful. Unfortunately, we are missing things like Unison gauge boosting, but honestly, slowing the enemies down is almost equivalent to uni boosting. Not quite, but it kind of is. Follow that up with the triple proc potential. Most of the time when you're running monsters like treasure hunters, you can easily boost up uni when you're triple procking. I mean, you'll have a much, much easier time gaining uni when you're triple procking than not. So this might not seem like a big deal, but if you have two treasure hunters that are both racing, this is actually massive because whoever throws this uni monster will be able to help boost the other quickly to get their uni because they'll be able to triple proc. So it may not seem like a lot, but it kind of is. Same thing with Dawn. Dawn may not seem like a big deal, but again, in the early stages of a guild battle, every little bit of cost counts, and this ability gives you 10 cost every time you use an ability. So it's super, super valuable early. Ambush is also pretty good. It's not like amazing or anything. And Resolute Element is also really, really nice. This allows your team to basically throw one crest monster and you should be able to one-shot the enemies. Now, the reason why I kept talking about Kijin and not really talking about Kijin is because the biggest problem with a lot of monsters is that they give penetration. Now, when you're a treasure hunter and your goal is to do basically no damage and you're trying to gain uni as quickly as possible, if you attack the enemy and you deal damage to the enemy, you will feed them uni and they can potentially uni and fight back. So generally speaking, you don't want anything that gives you penetration, and Kijin gives you penetration. So this is really, really unfortunate. I honestly, if I was running this monster as a first round throw, I probably wouldn't even awaken the second hidden potential on this monster just to avoid the penetration. It's really unfortunate because you're missing out on the insanity resistance and the time star. But like Kijin is so bad because it basically ruins your whole plan with this monster if you're throwing it round one. Yeah, just super, super unfortunate. But it is what it is. I mean, you can't really turn back time now. So that's the monster. For guild battles, specifically in a first round throw, it's fantastic. This is like, I don't want to say it's a 10 out of 10 because you're not uni boosting your team, but it's about as close as you can get to a 10 out of 10 without being a 10 out of 10. I would say this is probably a 9 out of 10 monster. And I could be wrong about this. It could potentially change up the current meta. Right now we're in like a kill heavy meta with some racing on the side. This may bring back racing in a more prevalent way when you're able to uni down the enemies more successfully. Again, we're going to have to kind of tell. And I think that if you catered your uni setup to be very, very specific to Peony, where you had like 2 or 3 Lancers on the front line, there's a high likelihood that this monster is actually well above a 10 out of 10. It's like really, really, really powerful because you can just prevent the enemies from gaining uni at all. And you're also doing things like boosting your defense and helping to prevent them from being able to one-shot, right? And with that many Lancers, you should be able to easily stack things like erosion or chipped blade so that the enemies can't one-shot successfully. So in many ways, this is a really, really powerful monster. But it totally depends on your setup. This is not a monster you just throw and it's an easy win. Now, for a second round clash, I think that this monster is fine. The field protect is good. Like the cost reduction and the unison gauge reduction, none of that matters. The field protection is good. The allied field protect is good. The element, like the field is good. The bubble is good. I mean, there are some good things. The absolute, of course, you'd have to make sure that you got a series of good buffs with this monster, because again, this monster isn't great in PvE, and in our second round clash, you're going to go straight into Crystal. So you're going to have to consider, if you're running something like a time, light, dark, star throw, you'll want your time monsters and your light, dark monsters to give you those powerful buffs so that you ensure that you've, won. Now, keep in mind, most people in a time, light, dark, star throw are going to need the nebulous field because it helps to one-shot, and the only nebulous field out that you can throw in a time, light, dark, star is Queen, and she's also star. So keep that in mind, but in the long term, they'll probably release more nebulous monsters, so it won't be that big of a deal. Now, this is really, really interesting. The increasing max capacity by 30 is fascinating. And I originally thought, okay, what's the difference between this and something like Unidown? But the more that I've thought about it, the more powerful this becomes. Now, there's 2 main reasons, in my opinion, why this is unbelievably good. The first is that it will help people to gain uni and prevent them from being able to get uni down. That's like an aspect of it, right? So before, if you were at 100 uni, you would need 100% unison gauge reduction in order to effectively protect against uni downs. Because if you're at 100 uni, even if you get uni down by 1, you won't be able to uni, and that could be a massive, massive deal. However, if you have, say, 130 uni, now, if you get uni downed by a little bit, like 10, for example, you're still above 100 uni and you still meet the requirements to be able to uni. So in that aspect, I really like it. But the second aspect is almost more important, which is now that unis are applicable, there are uni abilities specifically built to use your uni. Some of the most powerful abilities in the game are kind of weak, specifically because unis are so powerful and they cost so much. Like, for example, Forbidden Temptation, the most powerful ability in the entire game, costs 50 uni. There are other abilities too, like Indomitable Winter is a fantastic soldier ability, but it costs 15 uni. And so these abilities are really, really powerful. But because they're on monster, or they're taking away your uni, you don't have the potential to fight back. If for example somebody unis, or if you're in a PvE and you were at 100 uni and now you've used one of these uni abilities and you've reduced your uni, Now you may not be able to uni if the whole team is uning. So it's like a weird thing, right? This monster is unbelievably good because it's the first monster that I'm aware of, at least that I can remember, that gives you additional unison capacity. Now, I think there may have been a monster like a long time ago that gave you 10 uni capacity. There are also some, I get them confused sometimes because there's some old abilities that can increase total unison. I'm not going to be able to find it. This one? Yeah. So there are some ways to have increased total unison capacity before, but I think this is the first monster ever to do it. So don't quote me on that, but I can't remember anything else. If there was another monster, it was low. It was like 10. So this is really, really good. In my opinion, this could completely change the way that most players play Unison League, which is massive. And it also helps, when you're doing regular quests, if you equip uni abilities, there's a high likelihood if you're on the CPU that you'll just use a uni ability and you won't gain a uni, you won't gain like bubbles or any protections or anything like that if somebody else unis. So it's a bad deal right now to kind of just be on auto and have uni abilities. This monster changes that, and I hope that they release more monsters that increase unison gauge capacity. I do think that it's really, really powerful, and I would easily swap unison resistance main slot monster for this. Personally, that's what I would do. But so good. Now, overall, this monster is a little bit on the expensive side. It's like 800 gems, so keep that in mind. But I think for free-to-play players and for new players, it's not a bad monster. But I don't think that it's really what you need. You really need huge buffing monsters, and you need monsters that will change the way that you play the game dramatically. Now, whether or not this main slot will do that is kind of up for debate. And since I haven't played it and I don't really know anyone with Peony yet, I don't personally know. But I can see that this monster would change quite a bit. Now, as far as the ability of the monster itself, it's kind of weak. Especially for newer players, I would not recommend spending 800 gems for this monster. For long-term players or players who are specifically more into guild battles, though, this is a fantastic monster for a first round throw. Even for Clash, it's not bad, but really the main value that you're probably getting from this monster is in the main slot. Now, I don't think that the main slot is bad. I think overall, if I was going to put this monster somewhere and I was going to say, like out of 10, what is this monster? I'd probably say that this is a solid 8 out of 10 monster because the main slot's really powerful. It's really versatile. You can use this in PvE, PvP, and guild battle. It's not great at anything except for first round throws, potentially for guild battle, but it fills a lot of really, really nice things. Like you can use it in a lot of places. So it's not bad. I think overall I do like this monster. The biggest drawback, in my opinion, is this Keygen. If they removed Keygen and put something else there, then you could actually, like Serenity, you could unlock all of these, including the Insanity Resistance and the Time Star defense, and it would be a really, really powerful monster. Now, keep in mind, it's still 40k, so I don't like that, but it is what it is. So yeah, I like this monster. However, I don't know if it's enough. We're gonna have to see. It may change up the meta, but I doubt it. The Unison gauge is interesting. I think it's just a special debuff though, so easily removable, but it's kind of interesting. Now, I think this is going to be the main thing. I think a lot of people are going to get this monster specifically for this, and I suppose we'll see in the days and weeks to come whether or not the additional 30 Unison capacity is really that valuable. So yeah, it's kind of a hard hard thing to determine right now. However, I don't think she's bad, and she is an absolutely gorgeous monster. Alrighty, that's pretty much everything. I will catch you guys later.